Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about winter growing and some of the things that we've been learning week after week in relation to what our customers are kind of telling us, and we're kind of learning on both sides. Uh, One thing that came up the other day is I had a customer walk in and they said, I've stopped buying kale because it just doesn't hold up in the fridge as long. And I asked her, well, why is that? Why isn't it holding up? Is there an issue with the product? And she's like, no, the product's fine. It tastes great. She says, but it just wilts so fast. And it kind of goes bad, and I don't use it enough. And she was one person, and a big bunch of kale for one person, might take a week or more to finish up if you're not using it in, stir fries or salads or whatnot. So we got to talking a little bit, and it made me realize that, a lot of you probably don't understand the difference of winter growing, but I can also relate it to kind of summer activities that would happen around the farm, or weather conditions, I should say. So kale. This is a floppy, I would say tired bunch of kale, obviously. Why is this? So I'm going to explain some of the properties of how the plants grow and how they stay fresh and crisp, if you will. So just like us, just like the plants, we need water to survive, obviously. Plants are the same way. They thrive off water. If they do not have water, they die. Wilted. So this is a wilted bunch of kale. So what we're dealing with in our high tunnels, is they're environments where they're obviously covered with plastic, and I've talked about this many a times, that we are controlling the environment inside these structures. So we don't have natural rainfall, we don't have natural heating and cooling to a point, etc., etc. So one big factor here is that during winter production, there's a lot less heat and humidity going on every day throughout the days and nights during the summer. And what that equates to is a lot less perspiration from the plants, meaning that when it's too hot or plants have too much water, they kind of sweat, just like us humans do. They're letting out moisture out of what's called the stomatas, which are on the edges of many plants, leaves and stuff. And what they do is they slowly secrete water, or moisture out of their leaves, excess water and moisture that they don't need. So what's happening this time of year is that it is so much cooler in the structure that they're not perspirating as much, which in return for us means we don't have to be irrigating as much. And if you walk into our high tunnels, and I can do a brief video one of these days when we have the remay off, there is a lot more liveliness to the plants than you would assume from not being watered since, I would say, probably November was the last time we really irrigated. So that's over a month, 2 months ago now. And if you do more research with, learning about winter production, you'll notice some farms don't irrigate at all. Some farms irrigate maybe 1 to 3 times a year, depending on, their place in the world. But a lot of farms in New England are really limiting their irrigation because, one, it's cold. Putting cold water into the soil where your plants are trying to stay warm, might slow them down or dampen them a little bit. But two, secondly, they don't need excessive amounts of water weekly because the roots have gone down in the soil. They are taking up the limited amounts of water that are there. But because it is so much of a cooler, drier environment, throughout the winter months, that they don't need to be sucking up lots and lots of water. Now you're asking me probably, well, why is he saying that they don't need any water and we have a wilty kale here? Well, live plants are living. They are thriving still, and even in the high tunnel scenarios, they are still sucking up the water that they need to live. And plants suck up water through the stems, through a part of the stem called the xylem, which takes up sugars and waters to help feed the plant. So these are still sucking up water and nutrients very slowly this time of year. One, because the growing is so slow because of the amount of daylight we have, and two, the temperature obviously is a lot cooler day to day or night to night than in the summer. So what this means, this plant is actually kind of running drier, for the most part of its life in the high tunnel because we're not adding excess water. It is warmer in certain parts, like we had past fall. It was really warm. So they're kind of stressed a little bit, but it's just enough water to keep them alive. But what this means is post-harvest wise, I want to really get into is that when we are out there harvesting, we are picking these just like we would in the field, bunched. We rip them off the stalk, they get bunched and clipped. So what we're doing here, and this is what I really want to focus on, is that this is like a flower that you could stick in a pot, okay? Any cut flower you deal with, clearly to keep those live and looking pretty and beautiful for a week or 2 weeks on your kitchen table, what do you do with them? You got to stick them in water, right? So sticking them in water right away is going to keep the plant, even though this has been essentially killed, it is still alive even after it's post-harvest or after we've picked it. It is still a live being, if you will. It's a live structure. It's full of cells and nutrients, and this is more on the dying side, as you can see. But we want to think about plants as living things even after they have been killed, per se, or harvested. There's still a livable shelf life with this product. It could be a month, it could be a day, it could be 6 months. Perfect examples are butternut squash or cabbages. We're still storing those in cold environments, but they're still living. They're still giving off heat, giving off energy little by little. And that's how they'll slowly break down into either more sugars or decay, because they're still living. So what I'm getting at, we'll go back to the flowers quick. So imagine this is a bouquet of flowers. I think it's very pretty. I'd give it to my girlfriend if maybe it was a little more lively. But we want to treat this kind of like a bouquet of flowers when we get home. And what we're doing right after we harvest is we're sticking this in water to give it a drink, because we just cut its lifeline on and we're kind of pushing it to a new life. But we need to keep it vital. It's like when you chop your finger off because you were being stupid and you didn't see it. That's still technically alive until the doctors deem it's not viable anymore. So we're trying to do the same thing with products like this. So what we're doing after we harvest, we get them out of the high tunnels. We bring them up to the pack shed. We're usually trimming the bottoms. The kale in there, we're usually not really washing because it hasn't been hit with pesticides. It hasn't been in an outdoor environment where it's just getting a lot of dirt on it. We actually pick a lot of these products clean. They're picked clean. They don't need water to wash off any sediment and dirt, which saves us a lot of time. But after that, what we're doing is we're taking buckets of water and we're sticking them in the water, and then we're putting our buckets in the cooler. And what that is doing is giving this kale a nice 32 to 35 degree environment to live in while it can suck up water. Because this is a brassica. Brassicas really do like cooler temperatures overall. And to keep up the shelf life in the to keep up the shelf life of this product in the cooler, we put it right in there so it can last. This product will last up to a week or 2 weeks in a cooler, as long as it's maintained properly. So in return, what I want to give you guys is, if you're coming to the stand or you go into a stand, especially this time of year with local produce, kind of expect that the product is going to be a little drier overall. So a good practice is, we try to soak these as much as we can overnight. Sometimes we're harvesting for that day and they're only getting like an hour's worth of water before you guys are picking them up. A good practice is, when you get home, stick this in a cup of water, but put it in your refrigerator, because these don't like warm environments. So the customer, I'll go back to the customer. She's like, I put it in water, which was a good practice, but she's like, I left it out on the counter for a few days and it really just started to wilt. Well, her house was 70 degrees. Any crop that sits out in 70 degrees, whether it's in water or not, it's gonna wilt. It just doesn't. It's perspirating too much. It's too hot. It's like when you're sweating when it's 100 degrees out. Doesn't matter how much water you drink, you're still gonna sweat, right? Well, same thing with these. If we walk into a 40 degree environment, and we're drinking and drinking and drinking, we're gonna have to pee like a racehorse. Difference with the produce is that it's going to keep sucking up the water, but it's not going to be letting as much go if it's in your refrigerator in water. And that'll really help keep the shelf life of this product. And we are still learning a little bit day after day of how these products react. Definitely getting them in water and keeping them in water as long as possible throughout its growing cycle is key, because like we said, they're living, and so they're basically essentially relying on that water source 100% of the time after their lifeline has been cut off. And the cool thing with kale is that the bottoms here, and this could be, can't think right now, lettuce, it could be broccoli, it could be Swiss chard, any of the leafy greens we're dealing with, that these ends kind of dry up over time. Even if they've been sitting in water, they could kind of get kind of mushy, they could dry up depending on the place they've been sitting in. So a good practice, especially if you might buy this and you think, oh, I'm not going to use this till the end of the week. We have snipped the ends of this, but that could have been the day before, it could have been 3 hours before you picked it up. So really another good practice, and same thing with cut flowers, is that just give a ½ inch off the bottom of this. You're not going to be eating any of this anyways, pretty much. So if you just take your kitchen scissors or a knife and just cut about a ½ inch off, that's going to expose the fresh parts of the stem again, where they're really trying to suck up water. If you look right now, you can probably see these are pretty dried up. This has been sitting out for about 3 days, because I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what a wilted bunch kind of looked like. But if we were to, and I can do this quickly, if we were to cut, even if this has been sitting out for a couple days, if we cut about an inch off, and we take another look at these bottoms, you can see they're a lot greener, maybe look a little moist on the bottom. And that's because what we did is we just exposed, and I can feel this, there's moisture there. Even though this has been sitting out for 3 days, there's still moisture here. So what the plant essentially doing is trying to preserve the moisture in here by closing up its ends. But what we want to do, especially if we're bringing it home, is we want to keep the moisture going into the plant. So, say if you put this in your fridge on Monday and you don't think you're going to use it till Friday or Saturday, maybe pull it out on Wednesday and take a quick little snippet off the bottom again and stick it back in that water. So that's going to help the plant suck up more water and more nutrients out of the water you have it in. So in a nutshell, we're still learning the best ways to go about keeping these products as fresh as possible, especially in the high tunnel scenario. It's the same thing as if we've had a drought through the summer, except the plants are really diving down to get that water in the fields. But we're still pulling these out on hot days. They might have limited water in them already because of how dry it's been, especially in the past year or two, where we've just been dealing with more drought conditions than we need to. And so a big practice is bringing it back to the pack shed or wherever we're processing our vegetables, and we're dunking these in tanks of water for a couple minutes at least, just to, one, get the field heat out, which we're not really dealing with this time of year, but two, also rehydrating these crops so that when you buy them in a day or two, or say this is going to a grocery store, that this will be lively and fresh for a week or 2 weeks on their shelf, or for our sake, a couple days, if so, on the farm stand. Needless to say, at the end of all this conversation, this product, even though it sat out for a couple days on your counter, this is perfectly edible still. There's nothing wrong with this. You could eat it just like this. You put it in a stir fry, and you're not even going to tell the difference. Yeah, you want a nice fresh piece of kale for a salad or something, which is obvious. But there's nothing wrong with this product besides the fact that it's just has less moisture than it should in it. But it's still perfectly edible to eat. Is perfectly nutritious still. And yeah. So don't look at something and judge it by its cover. I'm trying to give you guys a little education on how these products work and react. And clearly I'm not going to try to sell you a wilty bunch of kale, but just keep in remembrance, if you follow those couple steps, this product's going to last way longer when it gets home, and you're not going to be angry saying, oh, he sold me a crappy bunch of kale. But also think that this product is fine to eat until the leaves start turning yellow and it starts getting mushy. This product is slowly dying, but it's still fresh, if you will, if it's been only a week or so, and it is still edible. So those are some cool things to think about as we learn the day-to-day, the week-to-week things of winter production. We're going to try to relay those to you so you guys can have a better idea and understanding. And like I said, this is new to us, and the best way in learning is just by doing it. So every week we kind of see something new, we realize something different, and we jot it down for the coming season. So I hope you guys liked the video. Thank you for watching. We're going to try to do more videos in the next month or two. We've been super busy with crop planning, trying to figure out what we're growing for 2021. So I've kind of been stuck in the office a little bit. But hopefully by the end of January, we'll have seeds ordered and plans of where everything is going for the season, and we can jump back out to be doing more videos. We're going to be talking about things in the garage, working on equipment, more things in the greenhouses, the high tunnels, different things we're working on way before the season's really even getting going, but getting ourselves a jump on the next growing season. If you like this video, please hit the like button below. If you want to see more videos like this, or you have questions and comments that you're looking for things, please hit the subscribe button, shoot us an email, give us a call, let us know. We'd love to hear. Thank you for watching.